give me one shot here on a blue chip stock, believe me, Kevin, the only problem you're gonna have is that you didn't buy more.
Nobody knows if the stock is going to go up, down, sideways, or in circles.
What's going on, NBA draft fans? Your boys are back. The Wolves of Ball Street, your favorite draft analysts. My name is Corey Tulliva. I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Albert Garbage Time, again for another episode of the Draft Deck NBA Draft Show on the No Ceilings NBA podcast feed. And if you're watching this live or after the fact, on the No Ceilings NBA YouTube channel. Albert, how we doing today, man?
We're doing. Feels good to be back. I've really been enjoying these. Been thinking about it recently, just thinking about us getting busy again and how crazy that's going to be. But I like this, man. It feels like summer vacation, but also kind of like we're not losing our edge type of thing. You know, we're not falling asleep at the wheel, you know, staying locked in.
We're prepared. We're doing the summer reading for class, you know, something I never did.
Never.
When I was in school for real.
But anyway, it feels great. And I'm excited. We have another great trio of guys to talk about today.
Absolutely. Today, we are going to cover Florida's Riley Kugel, USC's Amani Hansberry, or Isaiah Collier, and Illinois' Amani Hansberry. So a fun trio. And I think that, you know, we decided that we were going to start it off with Florida's Riley Kugel. So this is a guy that very much on the radar. He's a returner. You know, the way that we've done this trio today is one returner, one kind of under the radar guy, and one blue chip prospect. Riley is one of the returners that I think a lot of people in the space are really high on. I know that we covered him last year. Paige did a really great job breaking down his game. He's somebody who came on at the end of the year, and I think that he's poised for a really, really big breakout season.
100%, dude. I think what you mentioned, him being a returner, him coming into year 2 without Castleton, now that he's gone off to the NBA, I think it's going to actually, not that Castleton hurt his game, but I mean, if anything, I thought Castleton actually helped his game in certain aspects. But in terms of, you know, him seeing more of the ball, him being able to explore more of that on the ball ability that he has, I think it's a great situation that he was in terms of playing next to Castleton last year, going through that experience, playing without the ball in his hands as much, going into year 2, more ball in his hands, while also, you know, having that in his arsenal, like all the stuff that he did last season, you know, with his off-ball cutting and, you know, spacing and all that stuff. So, as you mentioned, a returner, but a guy that might actually make a huge jump in year 2.
I'm going to say something crazy, and I'm not saying that I'm predicting that it happens.
Sure.
But I think that this class at the top is so wide open that I think if Kugel comes back and cleans up a few things, gets the ball in his hands as the lead guard, which I think is going to happen, and just makes, you know, big strides, bumps up his average to around 20 points per game-ish.
Yeah. Yep.
I think he could be the number 1 pick.
Okay. I thought you were going to say something else, but okay. I can see that.
I'm not predicting that he's going to be.
Yeah,
I would probably bet against that. I just think that right now, it's so wide open, man.
Yeah.
It's so wide open. It's not as if he's coming back as like a senior. You know what I mean? Like, he is coming back as a returning sophomore. He's still going to be fairly young. He's got the requisite like size and athleticism. He's got an interesting case that you could make. Again, I'm not predicting it. I just think that he's as much of a wild card shot at it at the top 3 at the first overall pick as anybody else. So yeah, I feel it's the preseason. It's time to get a little wonky, a little crazy. And, you know, we know the draft is unpredictable. So screw it. I'm just going to say it out loud.
But Corey, can I say, I don't think what you're saying is that crazy, just because when we have a year where you don't have a bona fide number 1, number 2, number 3, it kind of is the returning guys that you start looking for, right? You start looking for the guys who spent a year or two in college. They come back for their sophomore, junior season, physical development, development in their game. Those are the types of guys that end up, being really good and end up kind of pushing their names higher. I thought you were going to say that you thought Kugel could have like a Jordan Hawkins type of leap in year was where I thought you were going, but it's similar, where Jordan Hawkins in year one was, he didn't get a lot of playing time, struggled with injury, was really raw, came back in year two and kind of lit college basketball on fire, ended up going pretty high to the Pelicans. So I could see that same trajectory for Kugel as well, where, he spent year one, wasn't on the ball as much, had an upperclassman that kind of dictated the terms on offense. And now in year two, he's going to have more usage. He's going to see more of the ball. And, hopefully, over the summer, continue to work on his game, clean, as you mentioned, right? Clean some stuff up. And then maybe his stock shoots way up, because even in last year's class, Corey, that a lot of us had him on our boards, and he could have been drafted last year as well. So
yeah, that's kind of why I think he's a little bit closer to like I almost feel like he's starting out in that Hawkins range. Just based off the strength of this class, or the lack of strength in this class. But I could really see, and Dirty Dancer in the comments says I could see him jumping up the boards like Oladipo. I think that's a really good name to throw out there, as a guy who made that jump. So let's get into a little bit of his film here and show off what is the appeal there. And the first thing to say, at 6'5", 6'6", my dude is a crazy athlete. Like real legitimate bounce, like in transition. Shout out our guy Colin Castleton leading the break as a center. Cock back, just throw it down, man. And we see a lot of that in transition. He did a really good job cutting as well. But he's a freak athlete. He almost had one of the most insane dunks of the college season that he ended up missing. That I don't think I have in the clips, but just a really, really impressive athletic two guard.
No, Corey, you're right. He's a really, really good athlete. Good size. He looks like a solid 6'5", maybe 6'5 and a half, 6'6 even. But the thing with him that stuck out to me athletically was the hang time. You have guys that can jump really high, but to hang in the air is a different thing, Corey. Like, it's weird. Hard to even, I don't know the science behind it, but Kugel's one of these guys that really has a lot of hang time when attacking the rim. You mentioned the cutting, dude. That's the one that really stuck out to me. Really good cutter off the ball. I'd like to see more of that in year two. Not to say that, what I mean by that is, like, I like that he did it last year, and I hope that even with the ball in his hands, he'll find opportunities to continue to leverage that strength that he has. Obviously, Castleton did a great job of setting him up and finding him for a lot of those opportunities. And another thing that I want to throw in, I think he's a really physical player. I like that he embraced a lot of physicality when he went to the rim. I'd like to see more of it. Not that I'm saying like he's the most physical player, because I'd like to see the free throw stuff get better. But in year two, if he continues to incorporate that aspect and he continues to leverage that athleticism into opportunities at the rim. Corey, when we talk about at the rim opportunities, we're not always talking about layups and dunks and floaters, but fouls. Collect those fouls, go to the free throw line. Corey, you talked about him getting to 20 points per game. You're at the free throw line a ton. It's going to help a lot. And so hopefully him getting there more and shooting at a better percentage than I think he's like 64, 65% from the line. That number going up as well will help a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Like his shooting numbers, which we'll touch on in a little bit, really good. But the free throw percentage at 66% leaves a lot to be desired. He's leaving, free money on the table. I want to see that up at 77, 78, 80, 81, 82. So I think it's plausible. I think with, him possibly getting there a little bit more often, it'll be something that maybe is a little bit more easily achievable. But yeah, I really like the ways in which he does attack. I mean, one of the things that he does a lot, you see it here, when he comes off these handoffs, he loves to reject it. And he's got such a quick, violent first step. And he's really good with like using his body and shoulders to fool the defender, that when he, springs off that handoff and rejects it. He's at the rim. You see him on this possession come off left sideline, and he's able to use a little jump stop, put his shoulder in, and finish through contact there. That's the kind of stuff that I think is really impressive with him at the rim. Now, as far as the numbers go, his half-court finishing was 48.7% at the rim, and I think that there's a couple of things there when we talk about why he wasn't finishing as well as you would think. One, he came on late. So I think that, maybe sample and roll played a part, but he's also at times, he's a little frenetic.
Yes.
I don't want to say he's at double speed on a podcast, but maybe at 1.25, right? He's a little out of control here, and he gets to the middle of the paint. He doesn't really have a plan. He's athletic and enough to get into the teeth of the defense here, but he doesn't really realize who's waiting at the rim. He's just no plan, low shot clock. So he's got to get it up, but just gets swatted. So, I think that's one of the things. And then also sometimes there's some touch stuff.
Yeah.
But I think it's fixable.
So, Corey, I think the first thing that you said, right, the frenetic energy that he kind of plays with, it's funny, you highlighted it here on a drive, but you can even see it sometimes, when he's just standing in the corner. Most guys, when they're standing in the corner, they're a little tired, trying to catch a breath, they're like, oh, I got a little break here. You see him standing in the corner, and he's hopping around. He's shaking his hands, he wants to do something.
He didn't take his Ritalin.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. That's fucking hilarious. I was just thinking in my head ADD, ADHD, but he's one of these high energy guys that really kind of has to learn to kind of focus and control that energy a little bit. But I'm with you, dude. And the touch stuff is a big thing that I wrote down. I think his touch could use a little bit of work. And not to say that I think he has bad touch, but I think it's a combination of things, Corey. What you brought up in terms of sometimes him driving without a plan, frenetic energy, that 1.5, 2 times speed. If you kind of put all that together with him not having elite touch, sometimes it's going to get a little bit messy. So if he can learn to slow things down a little bit, be a little bit more strategic with how he uses his athleticism, maybe having a little bit more of a plan when attacking the rim, that could see his touch improve just from the timing and speed aspect of what he's doing.
I agree 100%. I think it's well within, his capabilities to do it. And then, he also has these moments where he just is really impressive attacking the hoop. We see it here against Arkansas. And I mean, look at that cross first step against Jordan Walsh and beats him to the rim. I mean, Jordan Walsh got drafted on the back of the fact that he's this, potential lockdown defender. So he has the capability to kind of, and I really like the pace on this possession, little hezzy, really in control here. And if we could, and that's why I think we could see that with more consistency next season, as he does get more comfortable, as he has been improving and getting invited to, all these different camps, working on his game, improving that aspect of his finishing. I really think he could take that step. Now, one of the things I'm not really going to highlight, because, we're trying to hit all of these guys. Yeah. I do think that the other, major improvement area of his game, sub 10% assist percentage with a negative assist to turnover ratio, right? And if he's going to be able to get into the teeth of the defense and do stuff like this consistently, he's going to have to leverage that scoring to improve his playmaking, especially if we're talking about somebody that not only is taking that leap into the lottery conversation, but potentially even higher, aspiring higher than that. So those are kind of the two major areas that I think he really needs to kind of just flesh out this season.
No, Corey, I'm with you. Even this clip that you're playing right now on repeat, I love we just talked about pace, right? You gotta love, he goes between the legs. The setup into that crossover is awesome, right? He changes the tempo a little bit, gets Jordan Walsh kind of right off this tween. Jordan Walsh is okay, I have a half second, and then Kugel goes psych, crossover
Yeah.
right into the lane, blows right by him. Like, that's the type of timing, pace stuff that we're talking about. If he can continue to do this and develop in that, he's going to be filthy because of the athlete that we're talking about. And Corey, you said it. He had more turnovers than he had assists last season, and that's something that he's got to work on. But with him having more of the ball in his hands, it might have even been a thing, Corey, where he was a freshman last season playing on a team with some upperclassmen. When he had the ball in his hands, he might have felt like, damn, I got to do something with the ball right here. Like, I'm not getting the rock in my hands all the time. I got to go get a bucket. I got to go make something happen for myself, or else I might be, sitting in the corner for the next 3-4 possessions. So that might be part of that, why his numbers were what they were last season, kind of that freshman or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I think in year 2, with a bigger role, bigger opportunity, I think he's going to have a little bit more confidence in, who he is as a player for that Florida team, and could lead to, better results.
Yeah, and that was kind of his role too, like, being
Right.
off ball and adjusting to then taking on this year more of that on ball role. I think that will kind of help him feel more comfortable in his spot and not be like, all right, I'm just a scorer. I can expand and do some more things. Now, one of the reasons though that, I do like him as a prospect beyond just his ability to play with the ball in his hands, and why I think he can be valuable at the next level, is because he is a guy that showed that he's a capable off-ball player as well. He was 40% on like every jumper imaginable per synergy, whether that was guarded, unguarded, and spot ups or dribble jumpers. He's a very consistent shooter with, I think, a lot of room to improve.
Yeah.
Because I think that sometimes we talk about how frenetic he looks. I think his footwork at times is even frenetic. This is pretty solid here because he's a guy who likes to hop into his shots.
Mm-hmm.
So this is pretty poised and, splash a little bit unguarded, but at times he's even sped up. So I think there's even room to improve on his strong shooting numbers. But just the fact that he is a guy that is going to be able to play off of other people because he can knock down shots off the ball is something that I think is really, really, something he can build off of moving forward.
No, I agree, Corey. If you look at the numbers, like you mentioned, the synergy breakdown, just on catch and shoot jumpers last season, 39.6%. That's a good number, right? They classified it as very good. Unguarded, 40%. Unguarded, 39.3%. That's pretty good stuff,
Yeah.
And then even off the dribble, he was 39.4%. So the thing is, if he was doing that in a smaller role with less opportunity, people might be like, oh, whatever. But you watch the eye test, or you can't watch an eye test, but from your eye test, right? When you watch him play, you can see it, dude. And, I also want to give credit to guys like Colin Castleton. Did I just call him Castleton? Guys like Colin Castleton and Kwasi Reeves and all these other guys that, got the ball to him in good situations, and he made the most of it. So once again, Corey, I think his development path from year 1 to year 2, the types of looks that he got last year, the role that he played, that now kind of, stretched out into a bigger role, I think makes him one of the most enticing players to watch in college basketball this season.
Yeah. He's going to be, must scout TV. And, part of that is the fact that he could do some stuff with the ball in his hands too. Right. And when he's got that part of his game going, you go, oh, wow. Like some special stuff, we'll see here, comes off the screen, between the legs, step back from the SEC logo, high arcing shot, like splash. That's a tough, real deal NBA level shot making display right there. So I mean, and you see he's like got this. I think that frenetic pace almost is hard to guard at times because it seems like he doesn't know what to do. How do you guard that as a defender sometimes? And he's got he's a tough shot maker, and when you're shooting off the dribble at 40% and you're taking some of these shots, I mean, that is a really impressive number because, it's a very difficult shot. We'll see another one here as he comes off the handoff, little combo, violent behind the back there, knocks down that high arcing shot again. I mean, some special stuff there.
No, Corey, I think in the first clip that you showed, the thing that I really liked about him, not just from that clip, but overall, is that Kugel, as I mentioned before, does play with like a physicality, and he is a stronger built guy. Where even if in that first clip, he's coming off that first screen, and it wasn't the cleanest, right? He kind of got bumped a little bit, kind of got bumped by his own man too,
Yeah.
but doesn't lose the ball, doesn't lose control, doesn't lose balance, is able to recover and hits a really tough shot. And this one as well, as you mentioned, right? The behind the back is violent, but that's also him being like really strong too. And like just a little bump from him can go a long way. And to see how he continues to develop, I thought personally, Corey, I thought at times his handle could be a little bit loose, but still good. Like I still think it's a very good handle, but I think there's room for him to tighten that up a little bit. And as he continues to tighten that up with the strength that he has and the athletic ability that he has, you said it, man. He's dangerous with the ball in his hands.
Absolutely. And he's dangerous at 3 levels, right? He doesn't just have that 3-point stuff. He has an in-between game too, which, is for a freshman, there's some pretty advanced stuff. I really like the pace here.
Yeah.
On this is a tough shot going to his right, which is a tough, more of the sidestep going to your right is really tough. Gets into his body.
That's Devin Booker right there.
Yeah. Again, even, we see him come off the handoff and he rejects it, gets into the body, gets to his spot. Tough shot over a defender. So he's got some skill in that mid-range area too, that really, really, really impressive. Now, that's not to say that he was perfect. We go back to some of the frenetic energy that he has sometimes, and it could look a little bit wonky. And this is where you go, all right, this is why he stayed in the draft. He didn't declare and went back to school, because it's like 20 seconds on the shot clock, kind of off balance, fall away mid-range shot where he's falling to the ground. Yeah, like that's the kind of thing where your coach goes, all right, why don't you come take a seat for a second? Let's talk it out. Like there's so many other things that decisions you can make here besides taking this shot. Move off the ball, go get it back, right? This is just a force. It's not like it's at the beginning of the game, so it's just not a shot that you need to be taking right now. It's not a heat check, so he does have those moments where you go, all right, the shooting, the shot making is real, but it's also not perfect.
Yeah. No, Corey, I see it, dude. It's one of those things. Like I have a guy on my team. He's like 21, 22, young guy. Sometimes in the morning he'll have a Bang energy drink, comes in the office, first hour, starts like shooting some wild jokes, sometimes inappropriate. And we're like, hey, bud, maybe go to the bathroom, relax in there for a little bit and come back, and that's Kugel right here, right? Early in the game, maybe he had himself a Celsius and he's like feeling himself a little bit and gets too excited and takes this freaking nasty ass shot. But Corey, you said it, right? That's why he went back to college. He wanted to take another year to develop, and now he's going to go vegan. He's going to just drink water only, no more Celsius, sleep 9 hours every night and come back, a different type of player. And so it's exciting, but this is the type of stuff that we're going to be looking for, right? We're going to be seeing, okay, Kugel, your shot selection at times a little wild. Let's see what this looks like in year 2. Your coach is going to trust you, give you the ball more. The offense might be run through you. How are you going to take that responsibility? What are the type of decisions you're going to be making? Are you going to have your teammates in mind? All that stuff's going to be really important. So if he continues to grow in that, then for sure we're going to see something really exciting there. That's a tough shot right there. Damn.
Yeah, this will be the last clip that we watch with Kugel. And just to finish on a positive note in this little mid-range area, tough combo, getting pushed towards the sideline. Got Liam Robbins, who's a big time, shot blocker, a big dude there, finishing over length, pulls up, doesn't finish out of control at the rim, right? He knows that he's got to kind of get to a little pull up, good pace, gets into the body, plays with that physicality, and just a really nice to display of touch there from him. So overall, man, it's hard to not enjoy Kugel, right? Like he is just a really fun guy to monitor this year. I think that he's a guy that we're going to be high on entering the year as a collective. I'm not saying I have him number one. I'm just, like I mentioned earlier, I'm saying that I think there's a world in which he has this crazy year where he takes a major leap. And if he does that, then I think that it'll, be something where he is in the conversation when it does come draft time. So I want to hit this second segment for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go for our under the radar guy of the week.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And that's going to be Amani Hansberry. Now, Amani Hansberry is not a guy who has really been on draft boards. You're going to see a lot in draft conversations. He's heading to Illinois. He was the Maryland Gatorade Player of the Year. He played on Team Durant with Trenton Flower, with Kwame Evans, Trenton Flowers, who has just been in the news, headed to the NBL. And straight up, I think he was the best player on that team.
Yeah.
And I know we were texting a little bit back and forth. One of the things that, as you watch him, if you go back and you try to find some of that high school film, one of the things that you'll notice is there's his body leaves a little bit to be desired. He's a little flabby, a little pudgy, but we were texting back and forth earlier today. My dude's been at work on the grind in the summer, and you can go to his Instagram and you could see the body transformation that he's, worked on over the summer, where now he's like shredded.
Yeah.
And I think that when you watch some of his film and you look at some of the limitations that he had on the film, a lot of it is just straight up because he was carrying a little bit of extra weight. That split second, maybe he's a little bit late on a contest. Maybe the fact that he's a little too upright at the end of a game because he maybe is a little bit more gassed than you would like him to be. And I think that body transformation is really going to help him. Now, look, he's going to have Coleman Hawkins in the front court there, but I think this kid is just, his feel is so high. Mm. And I think that he's somebody that is going to be hard to keep him off the floor.
Yeah.
And also, Coleman Hawkins is there, but there's not a lot of size on this Illinois team, on this roster as constructed right now. And I think even if he isn't starting this year, which I could foresee him doing, whether it's beginning of the year or by the middle of the year, I just think that it's a great spot for him, as he kind of does a lot of similar things to Hawkins. So you can already kind of see how he's going to be used, and I think he's going to get minutes regardless because of how the roster is constructed. So he was either like the 50th guy on the ESPN Top 100, or he was like 65, whatever it is. Very underrated, but there's just a lot to like, especially when you consider how forwards play in the modern NBA today.
Dude, I think he was a really interesting scout. I read an article on him actually about how when he first joined Team Durant, that UIBL situation, I think he joined that 12 team early on, and he didn't have like a rock solid college offer until like his sophomore junior year. And going back and watching his tape, Corey, like the body transformation, actually for me, like you could even see it back in 2022 when he was playing for the Durant team. He was still a little bit pudgy, had, like you mentioned, was carrying a little bit extra weight. And then you see him this year, 2023 UIBL stuff, he looks much slimmer. Like it's actually kind of jarring to see how his body has changed. And then you sent that photo of what he posted on Instagram. He's even more shredded now. So like in a lot of ways, I feel like what we've seen so far and what we're going to see during his freshman year in Illinois, I think is going to be really different in a lot of ways, just because his body has changed so much. Like I don't even know how to quantify what that's going to look like and the type of effect it's going to have on his game. I think the first thing that stuck out to me, Corey, seeing him in the UIBL stuff, he played with KJ Evans for a couple of years. It made me realize like KJ Evans is actually gigantic. because
Yeah.
I see Hansberry as like a 6'7", 6'8" guy, and Evans looks like a foot taller than him. I'm like, dear God, like KJ is gonna be huge. But Hansberry, obviously, like with him, the first thing that I noticed with him that I loved was I think he's got like ladders for arms. His arms look crazy long, dude. His
Yeah.
length feels amazing. But yeah, before we get into the nitty gritty, I just wanted to say I just kind of wanted to go along with what you said, Corey, like a guy that was super underrated. College offers came really, really late. But a guy who developed a ton, you know, playing EYBL as well, and got some more exposure there. Hit a game winner last year that kind of really put him on the map. Played well in a couple of games, and I think he's going to be a guy that more people are going to come to know his name pretty soon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if we're breaking down his game, kind of the first aspect in where to start is I feel like he's really comfortable in like the mid-range area.
Mm-hmm.
I think that and what I like about it is he doesn't like he operates from the elbows and he's got good playmaking feel, which we'll touch on later, but it opens up a lot. And I think it's something that's going to be able to extend because I think he's got good touch as a shooter. He's not there yet, but his touch is really soft. So in this opening clip that we're going to break down, you know, he literally just gets the ball at the left elbow, jab step, knocks down a little jumper. And what that is going to do is, you know, now you kind of have to play up on him, right? You have to respect it, and you have to start guarding him a little bit different. So one more time, catch, turn, easy, efficient offense. So now he's going to come down, right? And if he gets the ball in a similar spot, you have to respect that he could hit the shot. So now he's going to take it off the bounce, and look at that footwork. That spin getting all the way to the rim and finishing with the left. Now he's not bouncy, doesn't get a lot of air and hang time on this.
Could change now though.
It could change. I don't think he's going to be a super athlete just because he got in better shape, but I think he'll be quicker and a little bit
inches maybe,
and even if he's just a little bit quicker off the ground in some situations, but that skill, that footwork, that touch, really impressive there. And then, you look at that spin, and then he even has another counter off of that same play type. So he finishes with the spin. Now let's go to the next clip. Similar situation, similar spot. Okay, I'm going to try to, let's see. Oh, I got bumped off my spot. So let me hit that little turnaround now. And because, especially, here where he did have a little bit on him, he can get physical. I like the physicality. And now that's going to be strength. He's going to be able to move guys a little bit easier when he bumps, puts that shoulder down into him. But the counters off of that is what I really like, because he already kind of feels comfortable in an area.
Corey, I wrote in my notes, my favorite thing about him is his footwork in the paint.
Yeah.
This is the worst example, and you're gonna freaking laugh at me, but like in some senses, it reminded me of like Mo Taylor back in the day. Like I remember when the Knicks traded for Mo Taylor on the Rockets, the only strength that they had with him was that he had it was a fun post scorer and a great feed, and I was just like, Hansberry with him, dude. Like for his size, he's not the biggest guy. Like I want to throw that out there. I saw him listed as 6'6" on certain websites, 6'7" at certain websites. So he's not a gigantic guy, but you look at his physicality, right? The long arms, the footwork that he has, he's going to do some damage. And what I wrote here in my notes is, for his size, I really like his ball skills, dude. Like he can handle the rock. He's not Jarris Walker, but I mean, at the same time, not everyone's going to be Jarris Walker. But look at that move, dude.
He reminds me a little of Jarris.
Yeah, well, I have a different name that I want to throw. I'm going to wait a little bit to throw. Yeah, I'll say it now. I wrote here. He reminds me of Jabari Walker a little bit. Was what I wrote. Okay, not one for one, but yeah, I thought of Jabari because a little playmaking. That we'll get into. Got a little bit of that. Good footwork and hit the mid range. But yeah, I just think like he's a guy who, in my opinion, played within himself. Like knew his strengths. Knew how to leverage, footwork, head fakes, hesitations, jab steps, all that stuff to make up for the lack of explosion that you're talking about. But then again, once again, Corey, now that his body's better, right? Maybe he is a little bit quicker. Maybe he gets a little bit higher. That makes him that much more exciting. So I'm with you, man. Really fun guy. But the footwork was what really stuck out to me.
Yeah, and you see it on full display here. Little step back, pump fake, step through, and then the touch finish. This is a super advanced shot. And he's probably 17, maybe he's 18 here, right? Like this is a U17 game. Like really impressive stuff. Now, I think the question going forward regarding the shooting, because we saw him operate there so well in the mid-range in a whole number of aspects, a whole bunch of counters, is like, what does he look like when he extends that range out, right? And if he could do that, I think this is how he really gets on radars. Let's see, he's getting a little pick and pop. I believe that's Liam McNeely. Helps too much, and he knocks it down. He's got that high arc, right? Like the form isn't like picturesque, but it's not like bad by any means, right? Like shoots it high release. Yes. I think I would like maybe even the footwork, like good balance. Like I know it's a pretty clean shot. Again, it's not Clay, it's not Ray Allen, whatever, but like it's something to work with, right?
No, I'm with you, Corey. But I will say what I wrote in my notes here. I thought the shot looked a lot better when he was open than when he was guarded, which is okay. Like that's just where he's at in his development right now. That's just something he's going to have to work on, continue to get more comfortable shooting from the outside with a hand in his face. But what I agree with you on, Corey, 100% is I think there's a good foundation there. There's something to work with. And put up a clip of him throwing the air ball. But I'm with you, Corey. It's something he's got to work on. I thought he I don't know how to describe this, but I thought sometimes like when he was shooting from outside, he'd get a little narrow at the top. Like it felt like he was squeezing out every bit of, power that he had to shoot from outside, which just kind of shows that he's not super comfortable shooting from out there. But that's something he's going to work on, that he's going to get better. He's going to get more reps shooting from outside. If he's going to play with the Coleman Hawkins, I think him continuing to work on, shooting from the outside is good. But also, Corey, even if he doesn't have, like a lights out outside jumper to start with, I thought he was a smart mover without the ball. I thought some of his reads, making those cuts, just moving into the right spots on the floor, I thought was really good, which kind of speaks to his intellect, dude. I think he's a high IQ player that, Corey, sometimes you think the game fast, you don't need to be super fast, or you could still play fast, as Professor Talaba always likes to say. And I think Hansberry is one of those guys.
Yeah, when you think the game fast, you could play the game slow.
Yeah.
And I definitely think he is. Like, we've just shown him shoot a guarded air ball, from the right wing like 14 times. So like you said, he's definitely got that to work with. But then one of his other major skills as a scorer is he has a really good offensive rebound. Like he just has a nose for the ball to take advantage of these garbage time opportunity, or not garbage time, but like cleaning up the garbage around the rim. Yeah. And, even here, like, he's going to scoop the rebound up off the glass. He's going to slam it home with authority, but like maybe an inch or two more. And it's like, oh yeah. Like that's the difference between him and Jarris.
Yes.
Is Jarris would eat that thing alive and bury it through the rim. It's a little bit different, but he just has a really good knack for timing, and then the fight and that kind of feel, and like the touch to like right here, like he's tapping the ball to himself. He just wins. And then left hand kind of turnaround. These are winning plays, man.
I wrote in my notes too, Corey. Good activity on the boards is what I wrote. And I love it, dude. Like it's a heart thing. It's a desire thing. As I was doing the Hansberry scout this week, it reminded me of how you felt about Fierro last week. I think Hansberry is one of these guys. He's going to play really hard. His coach is going to fall in love with him, because in every practice, he's going to be slamming the floor. He's going to be playing really hard, going after every loose ball. He's just a dog. He's an absolute dog. And I think those are the types of guys that end up finding the floor. Yeah. If you play hard, if you're living on the floor a ton, you're going to be on the floor. Coaches love that shit, especially college coaches. They love those guys. And with Hansberry, it's not just an effort thing, right? He's got skill to him for his size. He could do things with the ball in his hands. It's when you have that type of activity, it's hard to not fall in love.
Big time. And this is what I think is going to make the draft community at large fall in love with him. He can really pass that rock.
Yeah.
He's got some really good vision here, man. This time, high school season against Montverde, just a laser. The timing, he's at the top of the key. And this is, where you see a lot of these modern bigs operate, and just beautiful dime to the cutter. That vision it's sick stuff.
Yeah, Corey, that's why I brought up a name like Jabari Walker, and you're mentioning Jarris Walker, these guys that, and the reason why I brought up Jabari is because, like, Jabari's also kind of undersized too. And so if Hansberry could be like that, right, kind of undersized, but makes up for it with IQ, with length, with passing feel, with shooting eventually, like, oh, look at that dime, dude. And the thing about passing, Corey, that sometimes I think gets underappreciated, which we've talked about before as well, is accuracy, dude. I know Maxwell has talked about that a lot as well, like, because there are guys that can make the reads, but if you can't get the ball where it actually needs to be, that's kind of where you get the difference between like good playmaker and elite. And Hansberry has, like, look at that. The accuracy of that's awesome. The timing, the vision, the anticipation, all that stuff, dude. He's on the right side of the floor, keeps his head up the whole time. Just absolute perfect, inch perfect bounce pass to his man. And I think with Hansberry, he's one of these guys, man. I think the accuracy with his passing is really, really great. And so if he's going to be like a connective four type of guy, you can run pick and roll, pick and pop. Also, as you mentioned, get the ball to him off of, a little short roll, and he can make some decisions. Draft community loves a weak side hit. But if Hansberry is going to have that, dude, we're talking about a really fun, versatile guy. And, I don't think he's Jarris on defense, as good as Jarris was on defense. But if Jarris can go that high in last year's draft, Hansberry can go pretty high as well, I think. Yeah.
No, he doesn't have the athletic pop that Jarris had. Like, when we get into his defense, which we'll, cover fairly quickly, you could tell that he's got good instincts, and he's long, and he knows where to be and all that. But like Jarris had athletic tools, and as we had a anonymous prospect last year tell us, he was just intimidating to look at. In a way that Amani differs from him in that regard, because he just isn't that physical presence. Although, maybe he keeps putting time in the gym. Maybe I don't want to put a ceiling on him in that regard. But yeah, the playmaking feel, the vision. And I think that, in the NBA, you'll see him used a little bit more often in those short roll situations. So really exciting offensively as like a role playing connector who, can really just fill it up and do a little bit of everything. Here, switching over to the defense, end of the game, right? His team up 1. He's going to switch onto Omaha Blue, which we're big fans of. Stays with him.
Great.
Just
great.
Big time defensive possession there in a big time moment with less than a minute on the clock. And you see, that mobility, that IQ, the willingness to embrace physicality and then just not foul in a really tense moment. And understanding the refs might swallow the whistle a little bit too, so you could be a little bit physical. So just really, really good stuff there.
No, I'm with you, Corey. Also, an interesting thing with him that I noticed when he goes out to contest threes, I think it was like it might have been like a body thing, but he was like late sometimes. But there are times he'd get out there with two hands like together and just lunge out trying to block like this, which I thought was really interesting and kind of weird at times. But man, the thing with him defensively though is he doesn't have the fastest feet, but they're active. I also think he uses his length really well to contest shots. And he's going to make guys, it's going to be difficult to shoot over him because of his length and activity. I like that he gets in his stance a lot. He wasn't always doing like kind of the bend over, half-ass type of thing. So yeah, I mean, the heart is there. The desire is there. And now if his body is going to catch up to some of that a little bit, he's going to be a really intriguing prospect.
100%. Let's finish up one last clip for Amani Hansberry. And this is kind of like just a great clip in general. Switches off, right? Sends 2 to the guard, recovers back down to the key, uses his length, gets up, blocks the shot. So, able to do a lot of things that you're looking for in a modern big there on defense. And again, it's going to be even better as he gets more polished, as he ages, and then him being in overall better shape there. So I'm really, really intrigued and excited by the prospects of what he could be, because I really think that he's the kind of guy that he could be that Bryce Sensabaugh, potentially that Taylor Hendricks, that guy who was, on the outside looking in on these boards coming into the year. And then all of a sudden we look up and it's December, January, and we're like, we got to start paying attention to this kid. Let's keep an eye on him. Let's be, skeptical. And then all of a sudden he just keeps being awesome. And by the time June rolls around, he's somebody that is just really popular in the community.
Yeah. And Corey, one last thing before I know we're going to transition, but with Hansberry, the thing that I noticed on defense is that he communicates a lot.
Yeah.
Which is an underrated thing. He's pointing, he's talking, he's calling out different things. Like, that's the type of stuff that, once again, coaches love. And on the defensive side of the ball, you have a talker like that helps everybody. So I'm with you, man. Excited.
Big time. And that's that shows a maturity when you got guys who, love to talk like that. So, all right, let's finish it off. Now with somebody who is going to be in the running for the number 1 pick, top 5, potentially coming into the year, somebody that we got to watch in person, work out, and practice for a few days. And then, we got to see him in scrimmage and gameplay as well at the Nike Hoop Summit. And that's, USC's Isaiah Collier. So, the book on Collier is super bursty, strong, physical, downhill guard with some real playmaking chops. What were your impressions with Collier, seeing him in person at the Hoop Summit? You're muted, Albert.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. This is the first time I think you've ever done that. Usually it's me.
No one can be perfect. With Collier, seeing him in person, dude, I think the first thing that stuck out to me was what you mentioned, right? The burst, just in layup lines. Like, when he gets going towards the rim, it feels different from some of the other guys. Him and Bronny at times were kind of mesmerizing to watch, just even in layup lines. Bronny, thoughts and prayers to you, guy, man. Hopefully you're getting better. But when, Bronny was healthy, even seeing him going down the lane was awesome. But with Collier, I think physical, super physical. Like, he's got a pretty tough physique to start with. Gets downhill in a hurry. I thought he had a little bit of Kugel where I thought he could benefit from slowing things down a little bit, attacking the rim. I think that's something that he's going to learn and work on in college as well. Kugel was a freshman in college last year, still needed to work. Collier may still continue to need to develop that, where he goes a little bit too fast. But the shot is where I think I have a bit of a question with him that I know we'll get into, and I'd love to hear you talk about it, Corey. But yeah, and like, some of the mid-range stuff, I think you need some refinement and tuning, outside jump shot. We'll see. But overall, a guy that I thought had really good passing feel as well. And yeah, I'll stop there for now.
Now, if you go to USC's website,
okay,
Isaiah Collier is listed at 6'5", 210.
No.
Now, how tall are you?
I'm with shoes on, I'm like 6'3", but yeah, without I'm 6'2", yeah.
Yeah, so we'll give you 6'3" in shoes.
Wait, Corey, can I say something? Every time I meet people in real life that have like listened to the pod or whatever, the first thing they say is, "God damn, you're tall." Like, I guess I look small on camera. Like, I actually met a guy recently. I actually coached him in this tournament that we're in, and the first thing he sees me, he's like, "Damn, you're tall, bro."
Sneaky tall.
I get that a lot, man. I guess
sneaky tall.
Yeah.
Now we went we met all these guys as well at the Hoop Summit. Were you taller than Collier? Do you remember?
I don't want to out him, but we're like, so I was taller than Bronny, but Collier, I think we're like right about the same height.
Yeah, that checks out a little bit more to me. Like, maybe if he was rocking those shoes that you and Rucker both had, the Nikes that you and Rucker both had with the thick heel, like almost like maybe he could get to 6'4".
Yeah,
6'5" is crazy.
It's a goddamn lie.
But with that said, that 6'3", that 6'4", it's stocky and he's strong.
Yeah.
Which is both a good thing and could also be like potentially like is he just like more physically imposing than high school kids type of thing too? Like it could be a double-edged sword type of thing. Yeah, but I think he's so bursty and like quick and shifty that he'll be fine. But yeah, it's the height thing. It felt like right about where you were at. But I just wanted to double check that because when I saw it, I was like, I don't know.
But also, Corey, some of these guys are hard to read. Like, I remember when we first saw Aiden Holloway, we're like, get out of here, dude. You're short. And then, like, I stood next to him. I'm like, oh, like, you actually are what you said you are. So
dude,
it's weird.
I feel like everybody grew like 2 inches from the practices at the Blazers facility to when they stepped foot on the court at like the Moda Center or whatever, wherever the Blazers play.
Or did we shrink? I don't know. It's weird though. But also they're that age right now, right, Corey, where they just like sleep and they get taller. So maybe.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's get into the actual breakdown of his game and not conspiracies about his height. First thing that we would say about him is that just an absolute blur in transition, right? Like that's where he really pops off as a if that would be the first line that I would say, like his straight line speed combined with some of the bounce, just really impressive. Like I think him and Bronny both had like crazy in that scrimmage at Lake Oswego. Like him and Bronny both had these crazy like transition dunks. And like you said, the layup lines really, really fast in a lot of ways. And I think the fact that he's shorter doesn't make it an apt 1-to-1, but and I think he might be a better shooter as well. But in a lot of ways, I think he could parallel like Amen Thompson at times. And as far as like strengths and weaknesses go. But yeah, just really, really, really fun in the open court.
He has another gear is what it is, Corey. Like some of these guys, they're fast and they go at one speed, but watch Collier at the start where he's trying to collect the ball. And then he just goes into the next gear and he's flying and he's gone. And that's like we've talked about fast guys before, compared them to like a Adrian Peterson back in the day for the Vikings. Shouts to Rucker. I hate you. But just kidding. Dalvin Cook, New York Jet, baby. Anyway. But the thing with Collier, though, is he's got another gear, which is special because that is beneficial both in transition, but also in half court settings as well, right? With, his shiftiness, with what he can do with the ball in his hands. Sometimes he'll get going and then he'll get going after that, So I'm with you, dude. He has a burst to him that is pretty special.
Yeah, it's almost like when you're watching like Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, and Roadrunner gets going, but he's not actually moving. Like, and he looks like his feet have like a wheel, and then all of a sudden it's just like 0 to 60. Like that's that kind of like his feet get going, that extra gear that you're talking about. Yeah. And then, like that half court, like this is a really impressive pacing from him right here where, he gets the ball up in the half court, gets a little screen, and then whoop, like
goodbye,
straight to the rim. And like, there are 3 guys who should be able to at least do something with him. Like right here, if I pause it, you got the help side guy with almost 1 foot in the paint at the opposite block. You got the guy in front of him. And then, you had the guy who just got screened. And it's like, you would think one of those 3 guys would be able to at least touch him. And he just clean look at the rim. And if they do touch him, he's going to draw fouls. And that's something that he's really good at, right? He's really good at getting to the line. Not so good at finishing once he gets to the line, which is, big improvement area, but really good at pressuring the rim. And, I think that's important. That's a super important thing, because I think even with the lack of a shot, it's something that he's going to be able to do kind of whenever.
No, but Corey, even in this clip, the thing that we're highlighting here that's so impressive is he's so fast that they can't even react to it properly, dude.
No.
It looks like he's gonna kind of take a second, or like right after he gets off the screen, it looks like he's gonna take a second to maybe read and then react, but it's just he's ready to go. Boom, goodbye. Left hand finish as well, which is something I want to talk about with him. I thought he had a couple of nice left hand finishes where I was like, oh, good. Like, let's see more of that. But I'm with you, man. Like, this type of burst and speed getting into the lane is what you're looking for, right? When you're looking for little advantages all over the floor, the fact that he can get by before the defense can even react is spicy, man. That's a great take.
Big time. And, immediately, I think that's something he's going to be really good at the next level. And even, in some of these scrimmages overseas, which I don't have clips of, but, scrimmaging Mega.
Yeah.
And you can go watch the highlights on YouTube. He had a lot of really tough drives and finishes at the rim. So, like, even against guys that are pros, he's still able to, kind of get dribble penetration into the teeth of the defense at will, which is really important. So now let's talk about kind of the other aspects of his scoring arsenal, some of the shot making or some of the shooting, and, start kind of with the in-between game, which I think is there more so than some of the other stuff. And I think this is a shot that he's going to have to really connect on and continue to work on, because this is a shot that he tends to lean on a little bit more than like a floater.
Corey, that's the one I wanted to ask you about, because I was thinking like the in-between game is where he's kind of lacking, dude. He doesn't really have much of a floater to write home about. He loves his mid-range pull-up. That's something I wrote down here in my notes. He loves the mid-range pull-up, but it needs refinement and tuning. My concern is that he doesn't have, one of these, these floaters to kind of take down the towers, the trees, the giants, like that's something I think he's got to continue to work on, because having the speed and power to go through guys is great, but continuing to work on this part of the game, I think will take him to another level.
I agree 100%. This is like one of the, great job, like splitting it. And then, so like he has the potential to do it by showing this, because it doesn't look unnatural. But for me, like you said, he'd much rather get to the pull-up, which I think is, if he has both, that's really impressive. Where he tends to get to like more of a floater type shot is when he's trying to draw contact. And like when he gets a step on somebody, he gets a little bit, he feels the physicality, and he's trying to maybe get the ref to blow the whistle and foul bait a little bit. Like right here, he feels the physicality, and it's kind of like a runner floater situation. And that's kind of when he moves away from the mid-range shot and gets into that, this kind of shot type instead. And yeah, it's something that I think he's going to have to figure out. And don't get me wrong, like if he could feel the contact and you get that call, great. But that's when he tends to use that, rather than mixing up when he goes to the floater versus the mid-range jumper. And if he gets both, I think it's going to be devastating, because teams are going to play him for his drives, and he is going to need to counter that, because teams are going to sag off him. Bigs are going to be waiting for him at the rim, especially at the college level when they're allowed to just sit in the paint and sit and help. And, if he can get this counter, as you said, I think it's going to be something that really, really helps him with his efficiency and just his effectiveness and doing things that lead to winning.
Corey, I think the point that you made is so important, because although he's putting up shots like this, a lot of this is very junky, man. Like a lot of it is straight up not really competitive shots, but more just to draw the foul, which I get. Like that's also a huge part of modern basketball. Guys will do that. But I think if we're hoping to project Collier as like an elite guard one day, I just like to see him continue to develop the floater and that in between game. So I'm right there with you, man.
And let's see if he does that.
Yeah,
because these are high school clips. These guys are not. We're not even getting the development of that college year doing this preseason stuff. The fact that he has this room to grow is what makes it so enticing. He's not if he already had this stuff, he would probably be the hands down number one pick in this class.
Yep.
It's the fact that he still has all of these avenues to improve is what makes that potential, so intriguing. All right, let's talk about the shooting. Because there are flashes, but there are also the more consistent non-flashes, I would think. I recall being at the Hoop Summit, trying to get a video before tip-off to post on socials of his jumper form and just going, all right, delete that video, just trying to get a make. And it took a little bit because he's just an inconsistent shooter right now. So this possession, team's in a zone against him, right? So he's just going to call for a little screen, pull up, air ball. There's a lot to work on here with the shot.
Corey, it's hilarious that you brought up that example because that's exactly what happened to me. I actually posted on my story him like taking a shot and missing, and one of my homies texted me is like, "Hell no, you did not just tag him in a missed jumper." And I was like, "Dude, I was trying to get a good one of him making one, but he missed so many during warmups. It was hard." So, look, Corey, I think the point that we're both trying to make is that I don't think he's a bad shooter. I think, like, especially if you see him in the mid-range, there's stuff to like there. It's just he's got to fine-tune it. And I think it's really important. And this is something that we say a lot on our pod, but we just kind of want to reiterate right now for if there are any new listeners or whatever. When we do these scouting reports, Corey and I, we're not making definitive statements about these guys. These kids are 17, 18 years old. We fully understand that there is a long path of development for all of these guys. But for where Collier is right now as an outside shooter, it needs a lot of work. I think he's similar to Hansberry in that when he's open, I think a lot of times it does look pretty damn good. It's, when he gets contested, when he's shooting off the dribble, these are the areas where he's got to continue to fine tune. And it comes from straight up just him taking more shots, right? The more reps that he has, the cleaner this is going to get. And with college coaching there at USC, I think there's a lot to like there. It's just right now where he's at in his development is he's not a good shooter. I wouldn't classify him as a good shooter, but I think he's got good tools to eventually become a good shooter.
And he can make the shots.
Yes.
Right. And, look, the free throw percentage, bad.
Yes.
The shooting percentage, bad. But he's not afraid to get to the line, and he's not afraid to take these pull-ups. And if you remember when we were doing the preseason pod for Amani Thompson last year, one of the things that we said was we want to just see him attempt more shots. We want to see him not be afraid to take these pull-ups. When guys are sagging off, when guys are giving him space, shoot that thing. When you get a drive and kick, let it fly without hesitation. And I think Amen did that a little bit more than he did in his second OTE year than he did his first OTE year, but he didn't do it enough that you go, all right, I could feel confident projecting him as a shooter going forward, other than the fact that he's a crazy hard worker and you buy into the work ethic. Isaiah Collier is not afraid to take these shots, and this is pretty nice right here at the EYBL. Nice combo move, right? Tough, like smooth. This looks like it's been repped out and fleshed out and worked on with a trainer. One-on-one ISO between the legs, step, bang. So he shoots it from deep. And the fact that he's a willing shooter means that he's willing to fail. And, I don't want him to settle too much. I definitely don't want him to settle too much. But I also want him to feel confident in taking these shots, because this is how he goes from like being like a bet-worthy guard to like a potential like all-star bet.
No, Corey, yes. Yes to all the above, man. I think with him, look, everyone, if you listen to our pod regularly, you know that I was not an Amani Thompson guy at all last season, a guy that I pretty consistently had pretty low on my board compared to the general consensus. But the main reason why is what you just brought up, Corey. When we looked at film of year one of OTE for Amani Thompson, it looked like he was scared, man. There were a lot of times that he just refused to put up shots, and that was the biggest concern for me, right? The unwillingness to take the shots. Collier doesn't have that problem. He's not shy. You know, with Collier, he's a guy that wants to put shots up. He wants to kind of be aggressive and kind of put, his stamp on the game. And that's the type of stuff that gets you excited because, once again, I think there are good tools and a good foundation where, with more fine tuning, the shot will be good. But the thing is, if he's willing to take them, then that process of him getting better gets expedited. Right? Because he's not afraid to take the shots in game against real competition. That's the type of stuff where you get real growth. So I'm with you, man. I just like the mentality that Collier plays with.
Now, in breaking down like the mechanics of it, he's like a strong dude, which we touched on. It feels like a lot of times guys who have that extra muscle and build struggle with touch. And I think he's one of those guys. I think sometimes he's got like a slight elbow flare that kind of makes his shooting a little bit inconsistent. And then he kind of shoots it instead of like, how Clay will like square up straight up, like almost to the side of his head. Like if you go through the BEEF acronym, like you learn as a kid, like perfect, like he kind of goes in front of his face a little bit, but it isn't that like one motion shooting form that somebody's got. So I don't know. It leads to some inconsistencies. I think the footwork is okay. Sometimes, he's not in sync with the top and bottom of his body, but it's not completely broken. I think it's fixable, but I think that his lack of touch is something that's going to always hinder him from being like a plus shooter. Even like a guy like Davion Mitchell, who had a really good, shooting percentage in his last college year and has, just been at best mediocre, at his best in the NBA as a shooter. You could tell like the strength kind of hampers him at times. So I think it's something he's always going to struggle with. But hey, if he can knock some of them down, enough that you really do have to play up on him, I think that's all he needs to get to.
Yeah, no, I agree, Corey. And also you see like some of the touch issues with what we talked about before, right? Like on the floaters and the in-between stuff. It is something that he's got to correct. It kind of permeates through all of his shooting. So that's something he's got to work on. But thankfully for Collier, and I think you're going to transition here, I like the fact that, scoring isn't the only aspect of his game. He's got some passing feel and playmaking to him.
100%. And some really, really like impressive playmaking chops too. I don't think we got to see that a lot in person at the Hoop Summit, just based on like the style of play. But this is a dime, man, coming off the ball screen. Look, I don't think he's got that like LaMelo Ball type feel, the Josh Giddey, the Steve Nash, Jason Kidd, where he's like manipulating the defense entirely, but he does have a little bit of it. And he's got a lot of really good improvisational skills. And he throws some bullets.
Some Stephon Marbury in him.
Yeah. Yeah. Like that's a very good comp, right? There's a lot of Stephon Marbury, a lot of Starberry in Isaiah Collier. Make of that what you will.
We're not talking about Beijing Ducks.
Hey, can't argue with 20-8 every year.
Hey, exactly, Corey. Like it's not a slight against Collier at all. Like the type of athleticism, the physicality, some of the passing stuff we're seeing here. 20-8 is good, dude. It's good. So could be a comp.
That could definitely be a comp. But yeah, this is a really slick read off the ball screen, switch to go to the ball, late rotation.
Bullet.
Now this next clip, Wheeler's got to go in a hurry. They're down 9. There's a minute left. Hit ahead, get it back. Little set play, but still the fact that they're able to execute that quickly, and he's able to quarterback it and nail the pass, nail the passing location, the timing of it, the spot.
He threw it to the spot, dude.
Threw it to the spot. Trusted his man to get to the corner. Just an absolute dime, like quarterback shit. One-handed jump pass in the air, and it's a big shot to get his team within 6 with a minute to go. If he doesn't make this pass, the way he makes it, maybe the defender is able to close out in time. It's a really impressive read, even if it is, something that is, looks like more of like a drawn up set.
But Corey, the thing that's so impressive about this pass is that like we get impressed with weak side hits, but this is one where he's in the air, throws it one-handed, and he doesn't throw it to the man, he throws it to the spot, bro.
Mhm.
He threw him open with that pass. That is freaking so hard to do. And as you mentioned, in a high leverage situation, drawn up play, even if it is drawn up, the fact that he's throwing it to a spot like that and getting his man open just because of the location of where he threw the ball, that is nasty, dude.
Yeah, great job by everybody on the team there, executing the screeners. The timing is right. And look, he puts on the jets to get open, like in the open court, throws it ahead. It's a really, really, really fun read there. But he's got some of the, the more nuanced, kind of slow down, half court, come off the screen, just throw it up. Nice and soft. It doesn't have to be these bullets. He's got a little bit of touch to him too.
Corey, I think I'm gonna lock this down, dude. I think I'm gonna put him down as Stephon Marbury as his NBA comp, dude. The more we watch it, the more I'm feeling it. But you're right, dude. The thing, and you know what, Corey? We didn't see a lot of it at Hoop Summit, but we did see some of it. And I think what we didn't see were the highlight plays, but plays like this, right? Little pocket pass, little alley-oop, a little, pick and roll, him manipulating things with the dribble, and then dropping off nice little, nothing too complicated, too crazy, but the reads were there. The touch was there. This is the type of stuff that I did think we saw at Hoop Summit, which gets you excited because he's got some of the highlight worthy stuff, but also, you can run the offense through him as well because he's going to make like nice little tidy passes like this that maybe don't put you on, ESPN top 10 every single night, but keeps the offense moving, keeps the motion going, keeps bodies moving, plays moving, and gets you some simple offense as well. So I'm right there with you, man. I think he's got some real passing chops to him.
The other thing is too, like, he's probably got a little bit more chemistry with guys that he's played with,
sure.
A bunch. Like at Hoop Summit, you're building chemistry with a new batch of guys. Then, I was talking to an NBA executive and, I was talking about like, cause Team USA wasn't always so locked in at the practices. And, they're like, he was like, look, they've been bouncing around from McDonald's to this, to that, they're just kind of pacing themselves. And so we didn't see the full gamut of what all of these guys have either in those settings, but really, really impressive stuff. And then after we watch this alley-oop pick and roll lob one more time, let's hit it with the last clip of the show. And he's got the improvisational stuff too, where he uses that ability to get into the teeth of the defense, to drop it off. I mean, this is some serious stuff, and it's very Stephon Marbury-esque in the way he's using that speed, that strength to get into the paint, and that vision with the no-look, sweet little drop pass. That might be the best comp that we've had for a player.
Dude, I know sometimes my 90s comps are not the best, but I think we hit the nail on the head with this one. But Corey, I'm with you, dude. Like the thing that is so impressive with him is like his speed, him going that extra 0.5 speed really makes it hard for defenses to react. Like unless we're talking about like elite defenders, like all the defenders on this play look absolutely lost, man. Like they don't even know where he's at. Like once he gets past them, it's pretty impressive stuff. And as you mentioned, that's a really great pass. So he's a lot of fun, dude.
That burst is silly, man.
It's crazy. Next gear.
Yeah.
Come on, dude.
Because it's not even the first step burst. It's the second step burst. Right? Like beats his man off the first step. And then here, that defender tries getting up to the level. See ya. And it's the change of direction, that running back. Really impressive stuff.
Hit that hole, boy.
He hits the hole, man. He hits the hole. This dude would have been a problem on the football field for sure.
Sure, dude. Running back for sure. Nasty.
Well, he's at USC. Maybe he can get on your flag team.
Oh, I'd love that.
All right. That's going to do it for the trio of the day. That was Isaiah Collier from USC, Amani Hansberry, incoming freshman to Illinois, and then Riley Kugel returning to the Florida Gators. all guys that I think are going to have really fun years to monitor. And I'm glad that, we continue to cover just a bunch of dudes that, look, the draft, maybe not super enticing from a superstar upside perspective, but a lot of really fun guys.
Yeah, 100%. Corey, us doing these trios, I think is one of the smartest things we've done. This is awesome, dude. Just kind of putting us in a good place in preseason. But yeah, before we go, you guys can find me at Alberto Gim on Twitter, at GTGNBA on Instagram. I wanted to give a special shout out to my guy Clyde Suh, who listens to all of our pods, is a huge fan, a guy I got to coach recently in a tournament. Really good player. I think he played D2 before, was nasty. Really cool to see Korean ballers out there just being so damn good at basketball.
Let's go.
I wanted to give him a special shout out.
Shout out to the whole squad.
To all of Korea.
All right. You can find me at Corey Tulaba on Twitter. You can find the crew at No Ceilings NBA. I think I'm going to have myself a writing day tomorrow.
Oh.
For the site. I've been working on a piece. I think I'm going to have a good amount of time tomorrow to bang out and finish the rest of it. So hopefully by next week, I got a written piece for NoCeilingsNBA.com. If you're watching this, make sure that you hit that like button right down there somewhere. And then hit the subscribe button while you're there. If you are listening on the podcast, make sure that you subscribe, rate, and review. 5 stars would be dope, but honesty is the best policy. So, whatever your heart desires, but 5 stars. 5 stars.
5.
And we'll be back next week with another group of 3 guys. Until that time, y'all, appreciate you rocking with us. We out.